The most terrifying moment of my life happened on a camping trip with my family when I was 13. We were in a beautiful quiet forest near a river, a place we had been coming to every year. That night, after hours of hiking and roasting marshmallows around the campfire, everyone fell asleep in the tent, wrapped up in sleeping bags. Around midnight, I woke up to a strange sound outside. It was a faint rustling, like something heavy brushing against the trees. I held my breath, straining to listen. Then, the sound grew closer. I started to shake, but I told myself it was probably just a raccoon or some other small animal foraging in the dark. But then I heard it. A deep low growl, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I looked over to see my dad sitting up, listening, his face pale in the moonlight. Suddenly, we heard footsteps. Heavy ones. Something was circling our tent, brushing up against the thin fabric. I didn't dare breathe. My heart was pounding so loudly that I was sure whatever was outside could hear it. My dad signaled to stay quiet, putting a finger to his lips. He reached into his backpack, searching for something to defend us with, but we didn't have much more than a flashlight and a few cooking utensils. After what felt like hours, we heard sniffing near the opening of the tent. My dad slowly unzipped the top of the tent just enough to peer outside, then immediately pulled back. "Bear," he whispered, barely audible, but the fear in his voice said everything. I froze, terrified. The bear sniffed around our backpacks, still sitting by the entrance of the tent, and then I heard it clawing at something, probably the leftover food from dinner. All we could do was sit in silence, hoping it would lose interest. After a few agonizing minutes, it seemed to wander off. We stayed huddled together, waiting, not daring to make a sound. Finally, we heard distant footsteps fading into the forest. The next morning, we found claw marks on our tent and shredded pieces of our food containers scattered around. That moment changed me. I'll never forget the feeling of helplessness, the cold fear that took over every part of me. Even now, years later, just thinking about that night sends chills down my spine. Camping never felt quite the same after that.